Thank you for tuning in to the Helium Radio Network. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
Welcome to the Insurance Sucks podcast. Yeah, we know it sucks, but you have to buy it, and you probably don't have the smarts to figure out what you need or where to find it. That's why you should listen to Eric and Daryl, brought to you by QuoteSavage.com.
Hello, and thanks for tuning in to the Insurance Sucks podcast. I'm your host, Eric Remmel, joined by my co-host, Daryl Stidham. And we're sitting here today in beautiful Clearwater, Florida. And today our show is being brought to you by QuoteSavage.com. If you have some insurance needs, check out their website, QuoteSavage.com. I think they provide, what, Daryl? Is it auto? Home?
You have auto quotes, home quotes, and life insurance quotes, and expert advice behind those quotes, which is really the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we definitely want to show them some love. Thank you for sponsoring our podcast. This is the very first podcast of Insurance Sucks. And our goal here is to explain the pitfalls of insurance, talk about why you need it, and more importantly, why it sucks. We all know that we have to carry it. We all know that it's usually expensive, but a lot of people don't realize all the different types and all the different things that it can and can't cover. So we're going to talk about that. If you guys are local here to Florida like us, you're probably pretty aware of homeowners insurance and flood insurance and all the different coverages you need for hurricane and natural disasters. Thankfully, we don't seem to have a lot of fires or tornadoes or earthquakes or avalanches or
no, just sinkholes.
Just sinkholes and hurricanes are our primary disasters. But before we get into that, we want to learn a little bit more about each of us and kind of why we wanted to do the podcast. And so first, we're going to learn a little bit about Daryl today. Daryl, tell us a little bit about yourself. Are you an insurance agent?
I am. I've been an insurance agent for 6 years. And I've worked with two carriers that you probably recognize immediately, Allstate and State Farm, currently representing Allstate. I've worked as an independent broker as well. Done a little bit of everything within the industry, written everything from a renter's policy, ring policies, commercial workers' comp, including a body part for a adult actor, which was fun.
Oh, we'll definitely have to talk about that. That sounds pretty entertaining.
Oh, you have no idea. I felt so bad for the underwriters having to look at those pictures.
Well, I remember, I'm in my 40s, and I remember it was, I had to be a child, or maybe the story I heard in my childhood or my early teens or 20s, but there was a real famous model, wasn't it, that insured her legs through like Lloyd's of London. It was like big in the news. It was the first one to officially.
Was it Farrah Fawcett?
I think it was Farrah Fawcett, wasn't it?
Might be, yeah. I mean, that's a little bit before my time.
Yeah, and before mine too. But I think I heard about it when I was a kid and always thought the story was funny and entertaining. Like, yeah, right. Who would insure their legs? But I mean, makes a lot of sense.
I would be surprised if Tom Brady doesn't have his arm insured.
Oh, absolutely.
Or his knees. It's, you have to protect your assets.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what they're doing.
For many years, I don't currently have a policy on them, but for many years I had my hands insured. If I break my hands, I'm out of work. And it was more or less just a disability, So if I broke a finger or fell and hurt a wrist or did something stupid on the weekend, like riding a bike or, playing a sport or something, at least I was covered and my wages were protected.
You talk about insuring body parts, and this is something that most people probably don't know when it comes to insurance, is that if you were to lose part of your body in an accident or something like that, there's already an assigned dollar amount.
That's hysterical. So I just got a curiosity, and I don't know if you know this. How do they come up with the dollar amounts for that?
I don't know how they came up with it, but I know there's a chart. You lose a pinky finger on your non-dominant hand, it's like $1,000. You lose your leg, it's like $80,000. So there's already a chart in place. So if you lose a leg, they're going, okay, well, let's cost this much. Here you go. Here's the money.
I know that's pretty morbid to talk about, but it's pretty entertaining. So getting back to your background, Daryl. So you're an insurance agent for a couple of years here in Florida, currently working in the arena of Allstate. And I know they hear these terms like captive, non-captive. Can you kind of tell us what that means? Like what's a captive agent or a non-captive agent?
Yeah, so traditionally a captive agent would be one that can only write with one company. So let's take State Farm, for example. State Farm agents can only write State Farm products. Here in Florida, they can write Citizens homeowners. So they have State Farm or they have Citizens. independents represent multiple companies. They can shop your coverage for you with multiple carriers at a time. They provide some benefit, obviously, because they can shop you without having to go shop. Here at Allstate, while we are captive as far as personal lines auto, we represent over a dozen homeowners insurance companies and things like that. So we have the opportunity to shop you as well for certain products.
And I mean, is that important when someone wants coverage? I mean, to be able to shop around like that?
Yeah, because you're looking not only for the right company, you're looking for a great price. You're looking for a company that's not going to let you down in the event of a claim. Because insurance sucks, man.
It really does.
It sucks so hard, and when you have to use it, you want to make sure the company's actually going to do right by you, and that's why, me in particular, I like to vet the companies I write with. In fact, I have a couple contracts with a couple companies. I won't say their names, obviously. I don't write with anymore. I feel like they're not going to do right by my clients, so I'd steer away from them.
And I think that's pretty powerful to have your own insurance agent tell you, hey, I steer away from these companies because of X, Y, and Z, and stay away from them as far as their coverage. But I mean, I think just the virtue of what you do, the nature of your business, is kind of a lost art, because for the most part, people don't talk to insurance agents anymore. They call a toll-free number, they go on a website, they watch a TV commercial and see some animated cartoons or a retired basketball player, we won't mention their name, something like that, on a television commercial, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, that looks like it's cheap, and they've got someone famous on their commercial, let me go ahead and call them.
Right, makes sense, but what they don't realize is when you call a call center, that call center only represents the companies. They're only looking out for that company. Whereas if you have an agent, whether they're captive or independent, the agent is responsible for making sure that you are taken care of and the company's taken care of. See, we kind of play both sides against the middle a little bit, I guess. But into the day, when I go to sleep at night, I know that my clients are well taken care of because I have their best interest in mind. Which, again, that is the reason why I became an insurance agent. That's why I think agents will always have a place within the industry, and why I think call center insurance selling is it's lacking severely.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, if you don't really know, I mean, from a phone call, you're not really going to ask questions like, tell us about your goals, what are you looking to achieve, things like that. They're just selling you insurance policy. So they're not going to ask if your wife is pregnant or if you're looking to buy a new house in the next 6 months, or all these different things that an insurance would build agent would build a relationship with you and ask all these pertinent questions to know, like, hey, this coverage may only be good for a certain limit of time or 6 months, but we know that because in 6 months your whole life's going to change. You're having a kid, or you're moving, or something else is coming up.
Yeah,
which is interesting. So, tell us a little bit about your background. Are you from the area originally, from the Clearwater, Tampa area?
Not from the Clearwater area. I was actually born in Lakeland, over in Polk County, not too far. Grew up in Jacksonville. Spent 4.5 years in Tallahassee. I'm an FSU alum. And then moved down to the Bay Area after college. I was a teacher for a little bit. Decided I didn't
taught
want...
insurance?
No, I actually taught government and history, which was I loved. I didn't like the parents so much, so I left and started a sales career in insurance. And I like to say I'm an insurance nerd. I enjoy all the aspects of it, but I want to go back and touch on something you had mentioned: a pregnant wife and new home. I know that's something that's been on your radar. So, Eric, why are you on this podcast exactly? Are you an insurance agent?
No, I'm not an insurance agent, but in a past life, I actually worked in the insurance realm. So a lot of folks don't know about me. When I was in college, I actually worked for Allstate for 2 years. We used to call, when I got into the healthcare field later in my career, we used to call it the dark side when I worked for the dark side. The other side, the insurance company. I actually worked for Direct General for a while, for about a year, and in Allstate for 2 years, working in their claims department. So I helped to file, it was like an intermediary position. I wasn't licensed as a claims adjuster, but I wasn't actually on the phone. So I was considered like an insurance lead. So I'd take the calls and help out and that kind of stuff. It was interesting. I learned a lot about insurance. I learned a lot about claims, what the processes and procedures were on both sides. And then later in my life, I actually owned an injury healthcare. I owned a healthcare clinic that focused on sports injuries, auto accidents, and preventative medicine. So we did a lot of different things in and around the auto injury field. So we'd get on average probably about 100 patients a month that were involved in some form of trauma from a motor vehicle accident, whether it be falling on a bus or falling off a bus or being an auto accident, or quite a few pedestrians, over the years, bicyclists that were crossing the street or a sidewalk and were hit by a car. So I'm very well versed with the insurance arena. I've bought and sold multiple businesses over my career as well, and really know a lot about insurance, or at least what I think I know a lot about insurance and coverages. Probably nowhere near what you do, but I thought it'd be fun to talk about it. Get a layman's perspective from why you need it and how it's applicable in someone like my life, and then also to kind of hear the rebuttal or the counter to that for someone who's actually an agent.
Right, exactly, because I can bring my side of the story, but quite frankly, an agent side of the story is kind of the same, but consumers, what really matters, and how you guys view insurance is really what this is about.
Absolutely.
We call it insurance sucks, right? It does suck.
Because it does suck.
Because what are you buying? You're going to pay me $700 every 6 months for your auto insurance or more.
For air.
For air.
Nothing I can tangible. I can't take it to dinner. It doesn't take me out and entertain me on the weekends. I'm just paying for air.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't tell you how many times people call in, we get a quote, well, why is it so high? I've never had an accident. I'm never going to be in an accident, knock on wood, and then we give them a policy 2 weeks later.
Accident.
They're rear-ended. Someone ran a red light. They're in an accident.
So I have a funny story for that, and I hope that my wife's not going to listen to this first podcast. So my wife and I have been together 5-6 years now, between dating and marriage and all that kind of jazz. And she always busted my chops about my choice of insurance carriers. So I won't mention who she has, but I had them for quite a many years, and their rates kept going up, and I ended up dropping them for who I have now, because of the fact that I got tired of all those games. Every year you'd call in, the rates would go up, and you'd be like, oh, yeah, do I get a discount? Blah, blah, you do the little dance. Ironically, she's like, my rates are so low because I've not been in a car accident in 13 years. And, when I first started driving, somebody hit me. Sure enough, 2 days later, she was driving home late at night, didn't see a car, and sideswiped somebody. And so it's funny how you say that, and that happens, but you need to make sure that your coverage is there and that you're protected. I mean, she had been in an accident in 13 some odd years, and just a quick, I don't want to say it was lapse in judgment. It was a poorly lit road. Didn't see a dark car. She has a high SUV. It was a low, lowered performance car, and didn't see it in the side mirror, and right into it.
It happens all day. And where we are in Pinellas County, there are 80 accidents a day.
So a funny story. I've been involved in 9 automobile accidents. I've been cited for one of them.
Yeah.
So I've been hit 8 times, and technically, the one that I was actually cited in, I was turning across traffic, and the person was speeding, and because I failed to yield the right of way because I pulled in front of them, I was actually cited for that one, even though they were doing 50 miles over the speed limit,
right, and
closed the gap quicker than they should have. I still was found at fault. But living here in Pinellas County most of my adult life and being around the Tampa Bay area, still being in that many accidents and not being the cause of 8 of 9 of them. So it's pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
We're going to go to our first commercial break. When we come back, we're going to learn more about myself and Daryl. We're going to learn a little bit about what we're going to do with the focus of the show. And while we're on our commercial break, check out our sponsor, QuoteSavage.com. I know they've got some really competitive rates. They're a great company to work with, and we're really appreciative of their sponsorship of this podcast. So check them out, QuoteSavage.com, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're tuned in to the Insurance Sucks podcast. I'm your host, Eric Remmel, joined by my co-host,
Daryl Stidham.
And we're here in beautiful Clearwater, Florida, enjoying a nice day today. Today it's sunny and bright in the 70s, which is highly unusual for Florida, if you guys are familiar with it. So we're really enjoying the weather today. Probably only last a week or two.
It's so nice right now, though.
It's
Although
beautiful.
It was cold at my house this morning. I think it was like 50.
So my wife is 8.5 months pregnant. We're going to have a baby any day now. And literally it's 55 degrees outside, like last night when we go to bed, 9 o'clock, 9:30, she's cranking the AC down to 70. I'm like, what are you doing? It's 55. Open a window. It's freezing out.
No, she's hot. I mean, to be fair, we haven't turned the heat on at our house.
Yeah, we haven't turned the heat on either.
We just kind of let it roll.
I don't think I've ever I can't honestly remember the last time I've used heat in Florida. Other than my seat heater, like when I get like a sore low back or something and I turn on the little heat.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
That doesn't count because it's not for warming up. It's just because my back hurts. But, yeah, I can't think of the last time I've actually physically used a heater in Florida.
It's been because we've had some pretty mild winters, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about weather.
I gauge it on flip-flops. I gauge it on flip-flops. Like if you can wear flip-flops outside or not. It's winter if you have to put on shoes.
Right, and we don't have the snow and ice they have up north, which is just thank God for that. I don't know how you people deal with that. I really don't. I applaud you. Please don't come down here, though. We are full.
Yeah, we are. I actually had to leave the area because we were so full. Daryl and I both have recently relocated and purchased new homes, and I've moved out a little bit outside of the Tampa Bay area, a little bit of a hike to get into town, but I like it better because I have horses and cows as my neighbors now, so
yeah,
it's kind of enjoyable.
Absolutely. Going back before the break, you were talking about how you'd been in 9 accidents.
Yeah.
You were only cited for 1.
Yep.
So one of the things I always tell my clients when they talk about claims and getting access, I'm not worried about you. You have a good record. I'm worried about the other idiots on the road.
Yeah.
That are texting. They are putting their makeup on. They're eating. They just aren't paying attention.
Driving drunk.
Driving high.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this big crisis right now with THC and marijuana and all these different things, the laws haven't even caught up yet. I mean, what happens if you get high and get stoned and you're driving? There's not even a legal requirement at this point. Like, is it a DUI? I mean, what is it?
Well, it's a DUI, as far as I know it to be. But there's no way for them to test it until they get urine or blood. But they can't do that on scene. They have to arrest you and then take you back to the station. Now, that may be wrong. I'm not an attorney, but that's my understanding of it from a few stories from some people I know. But yeah, I mean, it's still a DUI.
Yeah.
It's the same as if you were on, prescription painkillers.
Yeah, it's true.
And in the Bay Area, that seems to be.
There's an opioid crisis. A lot of pain medication clinics and what they used to call them pill mills here. But in those 9 accidents that I was involved in several of my past careers, I've always been on the road. So I was in sales or some type of service industry where I had to drive from client to client or meeting to meeting, and I was always on the road. And a lot of it was just because I spent an enormous amount of time in my vehicle on the interstate or on surface roads. And of all those accidents, almost all of them were on major thoroughfares. One was on US 19. One was on 2 of them were on 4th Street. Now I think about it, 2 of them were on US 19. One was on 275. One was on 75. So they were all on interstates and major thoroughfares where there was heavy traffic. In multiple cases, several times I was T-boned. Going through an intersection, someone not paying attention, blowing through a light. One time I actually traffic stopped short on 275. And I was rear-ended by a semi. Basically, he couldn't stop in time. Traffic stopped short. I was an unfortunate guy that was in front of him.
Yeah.
Sandwiched a brand new car between him and an F-350. So,
wow.
The car was. I still remember this. It was 5/5 of 05. It was Cinco de Mayo of 2005. I had a car that was 5 days old. I had just bought a brand new Pontiac G6. Like I thought I was cool because I had a retractable roof, and it was like, neon blue.
Yeah.
I had this really cool fast sports car. I was like, all right. I was driving it to work. And there was a jacked up F-350 in front of me, and a semi hit me, shot me underneath the F-350, and then hit me again and crunched me between them. And the hood was in the front seat, the trunk was in the back seat, and the car. I mean, I gotta say, Pontiac, shout out! You guys have good crash tests.
Well, they don't exist anymore,
yeah.
So hey,
not around anymore, but it held up pretty well. I got hit with such force. And I still vividly remember this. Those screw top Starbucks cards, like the metal coffee cups.
Oh, yeah.
They have the screw cups. The top of the Starbucks cup shot off, and the coffee hit the ceiling of the car and kind of rained down. I was hit with such force when I was rear-ended that the coffee cup stayed in the console. So the top popped off and the coffee shot all over the car. And when I literally got out of the car, it was still in the cup holder in the car.
Wow.
That's the amount of force, the G-force that I was hit from when that semi hit me.
Wow.
But
I mean, what was your recovery like? I mean,
I was unconscious. So literally I woke up to a tap, 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 tap. At this point, it's kind of backing up. 275 was under construction. It was right by Malfunction Junction. I was heading towards I-4, and it was down to 2 to 3 lanes where they were adding those new side lanes they have now that have been there for 5-10 years.
Oh, yeah.
So it was really congested, really short. A cop apparently at that point was blocking traffic because I'd been hit. State trooper actually came up, pounded on my window, and said, "Hey, hey, are you awake? And I'm kind of groggy. I woke up. This is like 10, 15 minutes later. He happened to be in traffic nearby, and he says, put your car in neutral. And I'm like, what? Because, again, the hood's in the front seat. Like, I'm not so literally I hit the transmission, and I hit it from gear to neutral. The car wasn't even running at this point. It was off because it was annihilated. Yeah. He literally took the battering ram on the car and pushed me out of traffic. He got kind of in my rear quarter panel on the driver's side and literally just pushed the car into the shoulder and then got behind it and pushed it, 20, 30 feet up out of traffic. And then at that point, we actually had to smash the window to get out because the frame was bent, so the doors wouldn't open. So smashed the window. I crawled out and literally just went and sat on the shoulder waiting for an ambulance to show up to take me to the hospital and go from there. But, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to walk away. And that was the last accident that I was in was 2005. So it's been,
been a few years.
I better knock on some wood.
Yeah, right. No kidding. It's only a matter of time here.
Yeah, but it really is in Florida. It's scary. And one of the things I was fortunate enough that I learned in my past life, working in insurance, but as well as the healthcare arena, because at that point I was working in healthcare, I think it was right before I was working in healthcare. But I actually had a leased vehicle. It was a leased vehicle, so I had 100, 300. I had multiple cars at the time. I had 3 cars, so I had uninsured motorist, but it was tripled or stacked or whatever you call it.
Stacked, yeah.
So I had more than enough coverage when I got to the hospital, and then obviously by virtue of not being at fault, I didn't pay a deductible. I didn't, pay any of that. Believe it or not, they repaired the car.
Really?
And even though the frame was bent, and they said the only reason they repaired it is because it was brand new and it was a lease vehicle. So it took like 4 months. Got a rental car. It took months and months and months. Got the car back. It was never the same. I mean, it didn't hold an alignment. The trunk would randomly open. Like literally, you'd be driving along, trunk just pop open. The C on the Pontiac fell off. So for a while, I was driving a Pontia. So the car was never the same, and I ended up turning it in early because there were so many mechanical problems after the fact. But yeah, it was an interesting learning experience. I mean, I learned a lot from that. Learned about coverages and what to have and what not to have.
Well, and that's what's important because, like we talked about earlier, you're giving thousands of dollars a year to an insurance company for air.
Yeah.
Basically a piece of paper. What do you get? Well,
what does it cost if you don't have it? Is my question.
It depends so much on everything else. So let's say you own a home and you have $100,000 in retirement or $50,000 in your kids' savings. If you hit someone and you don't have enough liability, well, they can take the savings. They can take your retirement. In Florida, we have a homestead exemption. So if you're homesteaded, they can't take your home. However, they can put a lien on your home.
But if you own your own business?
It's gone.
Yeah.
It's immediately, it's going to be liquidated. You'll be out of
inheritance? I mean, anything.
Gone. So you can stand to lose, hundreds of thousands of dollars if your insurance isn't correct.
I'm not even thinking about that. I was thinking more along the lines of medical bills. Like what happens if in my situation, if I hadn't had car insurance, I wasn't at fault, but what if I didn't have medical insurance or coverage and I go to the hospital?
Right. So, I mean, obviously Florida, we're a personal injury, no fault state. So the first $10,000 is covered by your insurance policy, right? But let's say you're hit by a driver who doesn't carry any liability. By the way, that's 27% of the drivers in the state of Florida don't carry any liability.
So literally a quarter of the drivers on the road.
No liability. And they hit you. Well, uninsured motorist comes into play. And uninsured motorist will then cover your medical bills. It'll cover your needs. So if you need someone to clean your house, get groceries for you, mow your lawn, it will do all those things for you while you're recovering from your injuries. If you don't have it, then you're out of pocket for your medical expenses through your insurance, if you have it, and everything else. These are all things an agent can talk to you about. And that's why we have agents on the phone at Quote Savage to make sure that you get not only a fair price, but you get the adequate coverage that you need.
Well, and your question's answered. I mean, for me, it's pretty confusing when I first got into the insurance realm. When I first started driving as a teenager, like my parents told me, my dad was financially better off. My parents separated young, but my dad was financially better off. And he's like, look, I'm not going to put you in my policy because you're going to drastically increase my rates. He had hundreds of thousands of dollars in coverages because he had, high performance sports cars and all these things. And he's like, I'm not going to do it. And of course, my mom, she was living pretty frugal at the time and said, hey, I can't afford to put you on my car insurance either. So you're going to have to get your own. So for me to start driving as a teenager, I had to go get my own insurance policy and get a job, which wasn't a big deal. Went and got a job, got a used car, got my own insurance coverage. So at 16, I had my own policy. Problem with that is I didn't know what the heck I bought. I went to they're no longer around, but there was a really like fly-by-night insurance company called Aladdin Insurance.
Okay.
They've probably evolved into something new. And the agency was right on 4th Street and 22nd Avenue. We'd go down there, and I was like, all right, I need car insurance. And they're like, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know. I'm 16. I want to drive.
Right.
How much is it going to cost? And, of course, they did it's going to be, $350. I'm like, yeah, no, I make $200 a month, because it's going way back when.
Right.
Like, I can't afford to pay you my entire check just to drive and not have gas money or anything else. I said, what's the minimum I need to get to drive? And, okay, it's going to cost you $50 a month. Great. Sign me up. How much do I need right now? Okay, you need $50? Here you go. I'm out the door. In hindsight, thankfully, I was fortunate enough a couple years later when I renewed my policy to have someone that knew about insurance help me. But if I'd been in an accident at that point, who knows what would happen?
Well, you would have been fine. Your parents, on the other hand,
yeah,
because you're their kid,
they would have been in trouble.
They get sued.
Yeah. And, we're going back a ways, 20 plus years. But still, at that point, I didn't know what I didn't know. I was 16.
Exactly. And it's all about advice. I always tell people the insurance agent is important to you as an attorney or an accountant and a financial advisor.
Absolutely. And some of the things that a lot of people don't think of is there's insurance policies, which we're going to talk about in our upcoming episodes. There's a lot of different types of insurance that do a lot of tips of different things. Like, in my business, I have a couple different policies that specialize in stuff like protection of equipment. We also do things, in my business to protect liability, because we have some broadcasting platforms and things like that. So we want to protect, those types of assets. There's a bunch of different coverages we're going to talk about in upcoming shows. So make sure you tune in for our next podcast. We're going to talk a little bit about some basics of insurance, like what types of policies and what we call verticals, or what types of verticals of insurance are out there. We're also going to talk about some things you need to know in the state of Florida or outside the state of Florida. We want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Quote Savage. If you do need help with insurance and you're looking to get a little bit more information or just talk to some qualified agents, give them a call, 727-900-5888. Again, that number is 727-900-5888. I think they're there 24/7. So if you give them a call, there's someone there available to help you any time of the day. If not, leave them a voicemail and they'll get back to you. Or check out their website. It's pretty cool. It's kind of self-help. There's a lot of stuff you can do on there and get some information. It's quotesavage.com. And again, Daryl, thanks for joining me on our first podcast here.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Eric.
All right, we'll be back next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for listening to Helium Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and should not be construed in any way as advice from Helium Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, and editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the express written consent of Helium Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.